and a great weekend.
Thanks, Felicia. Hey guys, it's good to see you today. Happy Friday and hugs to you. I see lots of hearts and waves out there. This is a fun one. I love this class because I get to see you guys and we get to interact more. So it's really awesome. So today's class is just really fun, like super easy pendant, but it's one that it's best worked through with a little more time because I want to share a bunch of extra stuff you can do and things that you can do to adapt it, and then of course just to cover the possibility for variation, which naturally happens when you're brick stitching on a component. I'm sure you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll make it twice and it's not the same, right? And so that's why this one felt like a good class to spend a little more time going over. And it was something that I just came up with playing. I fell in love with these components and then I was trying to find ways to put them together. The way that they were displayed kind of intrigued me, so inspired the whole design. And so that's what we're going to do today. And then of course, any questions you have, just drop them in the chat. We don't have Carmi today, but we have Millie, and I've got my box open here too, so I'm going to keep an eye on it and see. And I see Sharon's comment. I love that. Yeah, so I think this will be a really, really fun class. And if you want to make along, you can. It's one of those ones where it's going to go a little fast, right? Because I'm going to just try to make sure I cover everything. But I think we'll have a lot of extra time. So definitely, if you want to try to make along, feel free. And I noticed some of you guys have already got it done. So kudos to you. The pattern worked. All right. So I'm going to show you guys on the mat just a couple of different things that the first thing I thought about when I was looking at it. So this was the original. And it was the first one that I just kind of threw together and I loved it. And so I just went to print with it. And it has 8, if you count them, you'll notice 8 bicones running up each side. And then I made another one. And this one had 9 bicones. So it depends on your spacing. And I purposely did this to show you guys you can get different spacing, will give you different counts, and it still looks beautiful. So here's one with 7. That had 8, and this one has 9. And then if you just see them all together like that, all gorgeous, a little bit different look, right? And the pattern still works. So I want to make sure and say that first right off the bat, because I don't want anyone to get worried if when they're stitching theirs, they're getting a different count than what I'm getting. Because this is definitely going to happen. You're going to get a lot of variation, and it's a pendant, so they don't have to match. And unless you want them to, you can make a match if you want. But it's all about the spacing when you're putting on that second row. That gives you that different look, right? So it's actually just an opportunity to play with it. It's also an opportunity to make it work with the number of crystals you have left from a strand, which is what was going on here. I had exactly like 14 left. And so, well, we got to cut 2 out. And so it still worked. And there it is. And yeah, so that's pretty much all of the, the finished design examples that I've got currently. And so moving on to beads. For the beads, you're going to need some 4mm bicones, and you can use any color you want. In the original, which is the one that's in the handout, we used Crystal AB. I'm going to just grab all that really quick. So that's this color here, and it's a really sparkly, really beautiful shine. And this one, if you look at it under light, like when you twist it and turn it, it's really sparkly. And in person, it just catches the sun and it goes crazy in the sunlight. So this is a really cool look. A little hard to see in a stitch for demoing in class. So I'll probably work with like a blue today so you guys can get a better look at what I'm doing. But the cool thing is any color is going to work, and we have a lot of them. So go ahead and just pull any color off that wall that you like. And then for the beads, in the original sample, I was using some 10-0 Czech, and they are the peacock color, peacock steel. They're kind of like a hematite, but they have a little hue of blue to them. Kind of neat. This is the same color in 11-0 that's called black diamond. So if you have the 11-0 black diamond, you can substitute that. And then some of the variations that I did, I pulled in, for example, that's Amethyst AB, and this is the one that I was just holding up, which is a Capri Blue. That's the AB version of Capri Blue. Did that with turquoise and did this one with the iris brown. So if you like those are the colors that I went with on those designs. And then moving on to what I stitched it with. So I used Wildfire, and I did use a different color Wildfire. Today I'm going to use the black so you can see what I'm doing. But when I was making the samples, I used a combination of colors. I used white. This one also has the white on it. And then on this one, I used green because it looks kind of turquoise. When you take that green Wildfire and you put it next to turquoise, it really pulls the color out of that. And so that's why I did that. I thought that was neat. Use any color you have on hand that you like. I think it'll all work and it'll all look really great. And what else did I use? So move on to one more bead here. There's another bead that is a round crystal. You only need one. And so this is kind of a high-end strand, but it'll go a long way in your bead stash. It is the 6mm LabradorHalf coat. We're just going to use it to make that bail at the top. And it's a really simple way to make a bail too. If you want to use just any 6mm beads you have, that will work too. That's what I used in all of my samples. And then last but not least, we have this cute connector. And it has a bunch of stuff on it. It's got this little sun. This caught my eye. I could not walk past it. It came home with me from the strand wall. And I use that at the base of the bindings as a way to connect my tassel. And so speaking of the tassels I used came from this pack. And I used the gray. You can use any color you want. I think I've taken some of the colors out of here. It came with like a purple and there's also an aqua blue. But this was what I had left from that pack. Let's see what else. The findings. So these are those creations findings. They come in gold and silver. And I did definitely use the gold pack on some of mine. So that's the gold version there. So any color, totally fine. And we won't be using this piece, but save these pieces because in July we have that day of making for jewelry where these are going to be used in that. So today we're going to be using these guys. And I recommend having on hand oval jump rings because it's going to be really nice when we make the bail to not worry about the seam coming through our thread. And I also use those to attach the bottom, the bottom part of my tassel and these guys right here. And then some chain, any chain you want to display your pendant on. You could even use like ribbon or cord, but some chain would also be handy. And then beading needles, I'm using a size 12. That says 10, but I mean, I'm actually going to use some size 12 beading needles. And the reason I want to use 12 is there's a couple of places where we're going to have to make some really tight passes through a size 10 seed bead. And I'm going to do a couple things when we get there. I'll remind everybody what I'm doing when we get there, but I'm going to try to make it work so that we have basically not going through it so many times. We're going to select a little bit bigger bead. So just digging through our pile and seeing which one has a little bit bigger hole than the others, purposely using that one, and then using that size 12 beading needle. And that will definitely help. So size 12 beading needle, some scissors, and then you will need some pliers. And that's for jump rings and for flattening our Wildfire. So we're going to do our usual trick for making it easier to thread our needle. And then we'll need these for opening and closing some jump rings. And what I'm showing here are some bent nose and flat nose, which is just my favorite go-to for jump rings, but any chain nose pliers will be just fine. And so yeah, that's it. A lot of materials in this one, but it's a really cool design, really fun. I'm going to use the turquoise today so that it's easier to see what I'm doing. And for thread, I'm going to cut 45 inches. And feel free to cut, a little bit more if you feel like you want to make, like if your component's larger than mine, but I found 45 to be pretty good. And also feel free to jump in with questions anytime if you have them as we get going. And so what I'm doing here is that usual trick where we just flatten the end. Move that out of the way. Okay, fold that over. Just gonna bring this down. Okay. So we don't need this one just yet. This one's gonna come on a little later. So I'm just gonna set it over here. But what we do need is this round one. And when you take it off of your card, you'll have to cut it free or unwind those little twist ties and then remove the jump rings that it's on. It comes with a bunch attached. So it comes like kind of like this with a jump ring on each side. And I decided to save those and use them later for a different project because I wanted to use an oval for my thread connection. But you can use them to attach the tassel, for example, at the end, things like that. Okay, and so I strung or threaded my needle, got that folded down, have my component ready. And now leaving about a 7-inch tail working here at the bottom, opposite end of my needle, I'm going to just tie a shoelace knot, double knot on the component, just like we usually do with a brick stitch start. And so far, all pretty much the same. The only thing I'm doing right now is I'm kind of focusing on making it stay at the top. It'll probably just automatically do that for you. But once you've got it at the top, just move that knot just a little to the left of that hoop. There's a little, on this component, you have a top and a bottom hole. And I'm not ready to go through them yet. We are going to use those holes to center our design, but for now, I'm just kind of just setting it to the side. And I do think you can get away with doing a different order if you wanted to start with, for example, connecting in the center. This was just the way it kind of came together for me when I first put it together, and I stuck with it, but it is not set in stone. You can make a change. And so I'm going to just quickly glance at what I got here and look for one of the holes that's a little larger than the others. And again, these are size 10, so they're already going to have a little extra room. But just try not to select one that's a little tinier, than just select a bigger one. And then bring the tail through here. I just brought the tail through so I can hide my knot. And pulling the working and tail thread apart. And it just kind of hides your knot in there. And that's just something I always do when I'm starting brick stitch. It's optional. You can just start, bricking along from there if you want to, but just like to get that done in the beginning. It does put the knot in the bead, which is going to haunt me later, but we can get around it if we're careful. And so that's why I went ahead and just chose a little bit bigger hole bead. Okay, so now I've strung another size 10 on there. Bring it down. And now we're going to needle behind the component. Behind it. And pull through. And then coming up in front of the component, going through that second bead there. So we're going to go through it in the direction that thread was coming out. So it will form a loop like that. And then it just locks it right on there. If it moves a little, you can just help it go back up. I'll probably move around on you a little bit for the first 3, maybe 4 stitches, and then it should stay in place after that. At the end, if you need to adjust it, I'll show that as well. We might be able to, in fact, on all of the ones I made so far, I have adjusted it at the end just to get it exactly where I want. And so here's another bead going on. And so this is step 1, and it's just, getting some 10-0s all the way around. Oh, hey, thanks, Cindy. Yeah, that's one of those things that really helped me get my brick stitch starting to look a little bit more, just polished up, I guess. And that's when I started liking brick stitch more. It was before I wasn't sure. It was too messy for me, so I didn't get excited about it when I first tried it the first couple of times. but now it's just my go-to. And so, yeah, just gonna keep going around. I'm gonna go around until I reach this spot here at the bottom, until I'm right at the point where we reach this last little loop. There's an open hole at the bottom. We're gonna try to aim for that. So there's this one. I hope everyone is having a really nice week. It has been a long one for me, and I'm ready for the weekend. But I'll probably work this weekend because we all do, you know how it is. But my kids are off school now for summer. Yay, yay, right? I think it's a yay. For sure, it's a yay for them. Almost there. And this is a really beautiful edging. I mean, like when I first started creating these stitches, I thought maybe I would just let it be minimalist like this and just have one little row pop of color next to the component like that. And it's gorgeous even just that way. So feel free to make versions like that. And I wanted to add that this join that we're going to do with the other piece works even if you don't have a second row. You don't need the second row to make it work. Okay, so when you get to the spot, you're going to want to feel out how many more beads do I have before I get to that little open loop at the bottom. And I think just looking at mine, at least one more. And then I think my next one will go into this stitch. I'm going to actually stitch it through the hoop. So I'm not going to try to cover it up. I'm going to go through that bottom loop. Let's look and see what happens. Here's one more. Maybe one more before we get there. Let's see. You can always pull it out if you feel differently after you see it. And that looks about right. So now my next stitch, I'm going to put my next stitch in through that top hole. That looks a lot better. Yeah. And so does everyone see what I did? I can always pull it back out. Looks like everyone's good. So I'm going to keep going, but do give me a shout in the chat if you want to see that again. It's just a little different. We just went through the hole instead of going in around the big part of the component. Just right there in the top. Okay, so now I'm just going to keep going. Just going to go back to going through the inside, right? And I'm going to keep going all the way around. And I'll have to look into, I was seeing that in the chat, there's some time change stuff, and I will definitely look into that. I assume they were all the same time, and I actually, there might be just that one that was different, the event. I will double check it. But if it does have a different time, that's news to me. So thanks for the heads up. All right, getting there. Not really worrying too much about the hole sizes of the beads on this part of the steps because we don't have to go through the side ones again. The ones you want to worry about are the tops and the bottoms. Such a pretty color on the silver. The turquoise on silver is really getting me. Oh, yay. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad Cindy likes it. Cindy was saying it. She liked the design. Thank you. I like this one too. It really has like all the just the bells and whistles that I like. And I just felt like I had to do something with these components because they're neat. They're really cool. All right, so now we're back in that spot where like we got to think about spacing and all that. So I'm just keeping an eye on it now. I was kind of autopilot here, autopilot. Now I'm gonna start looking again. So we're getting to, it's either going to be one or two more. Let's take a look and see what happens. Here's the first one. And how does that sit? This one's going to be a little tighter, but I'm going to put one more on before I go through the top loop. And hopefully that, yeah, I think it'll work. So if you remember at the beginning, I was saying kind of at the end, sometimes we end up sliding things around. And the cool thing about brick stitch is you have a little bit of maneuverability to do that. So that's what I'm doing. And to do that, all I'm really doing is just kind of pushing on the beads. I'm just pushing them around. The threads go with them. And it looks a little more centered to me now. And so the cool thing about brick stitch is until we put on row 2, it's not super tight yet. I don't know if in previous classes we've mentioned, but when you add the second row and you start pulling on the threads that are above, it actually tightens these. And at that point, it would be a lot harder to do what we just did. So if you have to do adjustments like that, always do them in brick stitch before you've added your next row, or it's just not going to slide as easily. That one slid okay for me, so I was feeling good about that. Okay, so now we're going to change up what we're doing. We've got a really good little stitch going around there. I'm again going to hunt through my pile for a bead with a really generous inside hole diameter, and that looks pretty good. And I'm going to go through the top hoop or hole, I guess, and pull that through. So just like that. And then come up through the bead. Okay. And the next step would be to join it. Before I join these two together, I'm not going to do it just yet. I need to grab one of those crystal 6mm beads. And I'm just going to get one. I just need the one. And then just come up through that. And then you're also going to need a jump ring. So here's my jump rings there. And my pliers. I'm going to make sure that's closed. It looks pretty good. Then I'm going to give it another just double check. Actually, it looks really great, actually. Okay, that one's good. Okay, so go ahead and go through that jump ring. And then back through your crystal. And as you go through your crystal, if you want, go ahead and keep going through your size 10 seed bead. So all those together. And the jump ring is going to sit at the top. And it does spin. If you want to go ahead and spin the seam to the back, just hold it like that. You can train it to sit like that, so that you can just run your chain through it at the end and it's instant veil. I use that trick a lot to create veils and designs. I've recycled that one a lot of times. So going through that top hole in the component and then flipping it over, go back up through that same size 10 bead continue through the crystal. It'll probably just happen automatically for you. Through, pull that tight. And through the jump ring. Back down. And then you're going to want to go through the size 10 seed bead again. Just really gently kind of wiggle around and make sure you're not puncturing thread. It should go through pretty easily. It's going to get tight when we do our next turn, but this one should be relatively easy to do. Shouldn't need your pliers. It should just go right through. And now I'm going to go through that hoop again, the top hole of the component, that open hole there. And I'm going to come back up through just the size 10 bead this time. I'm not going to go through the crystal. And this will take a little finessing. If you end up going through the crystal, don't worry. It's path of least resistance might be to do that. It happens to me on occasion. So see, I'm through the crystal here. That's okay. I'm just going to go back down through it. Because my goal was just to exit from the size 10. Okay, so now what you'll see here is, get my tail out of the way. I've got my thread exiting from the size 10 that's just below that crystal. And I'm ready to join. So bail is done. It's got just 2 passes, but Wildfire is strong and I think it's okay. I only have 2 passes on my designs and it's light. It's not a heavy design. I think it will be pretty durable. Okay, and so remember we have a knot in here. But undeterred, I'm just going to wiggle around my knot. I'm going back down through that first bead. I can use my tail to hold on to while I pull. All right. And so I'll have a little space here. See my little gap. If you don't like that gap, again, just a slight little nudge with those beads. Pull tight here. Space is gone. And it looks really tight. Everything looks spaced right. To go through the center, around, and then come up to that bead again. Tricky because of that knot, but you're just gonna carefully wiggle around it. You'll know if you've hit it because your thread just won't, it's like your needle will not go through. So just pull the needle out and put it back in. And if you need to use some pliers, just gently do that. You don't want to break a bead. There we go. So now you've got your bail, pretty pop of color. I mean, you could call that done if you wanted to. But adding the embellishment really makes it look really cool, especially with the big crystal here at the top. So let me get those. I'm going to get the 4mm Bicones out. And at this point, you could, if you felt like it, you could change the color of your seed beads. I didn't do that on any of my samples, but it was a thought that popped in my mind a couple times that I thought I'd share in case anyone has that idea too, that I think it would be really cool. And I'm working with this blue only so you can see it, but any color would be totally fine. And this is where, when we talked about in the beginning, I'm just going to revisit that really quick. The thing about spacing is it's completely to your eye. You're going to get a lot of differences. You're going to get a lot of, like, depending on what thread bridge you use, the gaps can look really cool, or you can just cram them right next to each other. So what you're seeing here, this one, is every thread bridge done for the most part. There's a few places where I skipped one because I needed it to be symmetrical with what I did on the first side, but it's largely just 1 for 1. This one, skipping one every time. So I skipped a thread bridge there. And then the Goldilocks in the middle was the original sample. And on that one, I finessed it. I went in 1 on some, 2 on the others. And for the most part, it looks like I'm going every other thread bridge except for at the tops and the bottom here. That one looks like I skipped more than 1. but I was just getting it to line up. And my main concern when making them wasn't the spacing between the beads themselves, because that kind of disappears, honestly. It was the spacing between these and those. Making those match was more important to me than the actual bead spacing. You can see here, that one, they're, you know, kind of as close. This one, I spaced them more. So there's some differences, right? And I pulled out, I would say I probably pulled this one out maybe 3 or 4 times, just being very perfectionist-y about like, and when I say pull it out, I'll show you exactly what I mean. We're gonna get started on that. But if you don't like it how it looks once you've stitched it and you think, you know what, try again, it's really easy to undo your work. There's a trick for that. So let's dive into that next row. So the basic stitch is really easy, and it's a repeat of itself over and over again. You just have a bicone. Oh, sorry, you pick up 2 size 10 seed beads and then a 4mm bicone. So there's 2 and then the bicone. And that's the same thing. We'll just repeat that the whole way. That's the stitching, you know, stringing part. And then the next part is just choosing a thread bridge. So you can choose like the first one here. I probably wouldn't choose this very first one. In fact, I don't think I did on any of those, because that's going to cram your seed beads right up next to your bail, and it's going to tilt your bail. So I'm going to give your bail some air and maybe go through the next one and just see how you like it, if it looks good. And when you pull it down, those seed beads should sit on the side, and you'll get a little look like that. And I like the look of it, so I'm gonna keep going. Come up through the crystal only and pull tight. And there it is. And so in the handout, what you'll see in the handout is 8 crystals. And 8 crystals is how many we've got going in the original sample. But as I was just showing you, you could do it with 7, or you could do it with 9. You could do more, maybe more if you wanted, but try it and see how many you get with spacing that looks good to you. So the next thread bridge, if you went into the next one, would make it look like that. And it's tight, right? They're right next to each other. And then you can back out by just backing out like that, or you can go to skip one and you'll get a little bit of space. And I thought that looked cool. I also like the way they kind of have the same slant, like each of the bicones it has its own, you know, that they match north, I guess. They're all the same direction, and having that makes it kind of like line pleasing to my eye. So I did that. I liked it. I'm going to try to make a few that I don't like, so I can show you pulling them out after you've finished the stitch. So here's the next one. Skip that one. So the next thread bridge for me here would be this thread bridge, or I could go to this one. Let's try that one and see if it's. So I actually think I like that one. It's going to put me closer to having 7 beads total. Okay, let's do one that we don't like. Let's make one really tight. That's just the next thread bridge. Actually, still looks cool, but it's just a little close. But let's say I just went ahead and finished it. Pull it through. And then I looked at it and I'm like, not liking it. And I want to pull it out. Really easy to do. You don't even have to take your needle off. All you want to do is kind of bend the crystal down a little bit. Get under there with your needle and find the loop around your thread bridge and just pull it out. And your needle might come off actually, but and then you just pull it off. So there's one way to undo them. I'll show you another way. I did have a way where the needle doesn't have to get restrung. It just kind of accidentally came off for that one. It didn't work. I'll try it again. So again, I'm going to put it through the same one. Pull tight. Not loving it. Come underneath here. Pull that out. Now that it's loose, let's go ahead and get your needle back through. And just make sure that you're coming through when you go through the right direction there. Yeah. And then you can just go back underneath the thread bridge. There's another way. It doesn't always work out with the needle on, but you can sometimes get away with that, especially if you needle back through with your eye side. I might get the opportunity to show that again if I actually don't like it, you know, when I get down here to the bottom, but I do think that looks better. So that was skipping one. Yeah, I like it. Here's another one, skipping one. We're going to have lots of extra time to play with this. So no worries if you missed anything or you want to see it again. I think we'll be able to make two. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's going to be my 7th one. And I think that's going to be the winner. Yeah. Okay, so that looks good. And when you get to the bottom, what you'll want to think about is your next piece. So where's I sat it right over here. Here we go. Okay, so the next piece you're connecting, and you'll want to play with this, especially if you're using a different set of components, because sometimes a different component, like if this was a round, you would need more space, right? It would be taking up more. You're going to want to look at it now because you're going to want to decide if you like how this looks next to it. It's going to hang literally right below the open loop of the bottom of the connector above it. So it's going to be just like that. And I think that looks good. If you like it too, and then you can proceed from here. But one of the things that I'm noticing when I finish this end is that in the handout, what it shows is going right down through. So you identify your center, the one that goes, that's the bead that goes through. I'm going to go through it this way so you can see which one I mean. The bead that is actually connected through the bottom loop right there. That's the one we're going to put the connector on. So ideally, we'd be coming down through the one right before it. The only thing that I'm noticing is I don't always love, and you're going to run into this too, I don't always love how it makes that look. I mean, it kind of works for me here. I'll probably stick with it. But if you don't like that, you can always go down through the one just before it, and then just come back up through that bead, come down through this bead, go around your component, come up. You can weave to get where you need to be if you don't like the spacing there. So I thought I'd show you what I mean. So in the handout, it shows you this. It shows you just diving down here, coming around, coming up to the bead, and then you proceed on to the next spot. And that works great. You could just do that. If you're not loving that spacing, you can come back out this bead here. Like, let's say you wanted to go through this one. You could do that and it would be just fine. And how you would get to where you need to be after that is you just weave down. So that actually looks a little too close to me. I liked it the way it was before. But if I did like the way that it looked there, I would just go around the component, come up, go through this bead here, and then come back down through this one, go around the component, come back up through it, and I'm where I need to be. So don't fret if when you get to this part, you feel like as it is written in the handout is not working for you. If you don't like the look, you can always get back to where you need to be. For me though, I think it's working as designed, shockingly. Kind of looks good, right? The spacing is just right. So I'm going to stick with it, but definitely not locked in. There's no reason you have to stick with that exact step. Coming back around, going up through that bead. And go through here and pull tight. Okay. So that's one side done. You've got it locked. And all we need to do is go down through the next bead, and we're going to use that as our way to attach this. Okay, so coming down through this one. And I just kind of went through the component already there. And I don't want to go through the component though. I want to go through the open hole there. I almost did it wrong. Just matching what's already there as thread path is good. Coming up to that bead. Okay, and bringing this component over. Come up through that. All right, and so just go through the bead again. This is another one that's going to get a little tight, but it works. And you just want to go slow, be careful. Going through the bottom hole of the component above. I got to go back through the bead. And that's connected pretty well. We can reinforce that one more time. But one thread is even probably okay. And I used to do earrings like this, where it was just going to be, just that hanging a lot of the time. I just had one thread. It's more secure too, obviously, but, and I'm going to do that here. But if you don't want to, I feel like one is okay. The other thought that I'd had, of course, after I'd written the instructions was it might be possible to just put one size 8 bead. So we're using 10s, size 10-0. But if this one bottom bead was an 8, it would look great. It would still look really nice. And if anyone wants to play with that, you can make another one and have our top and bottom bead be a size 8. And the reason I bring that up is if you're going to make a lot of these, what I'm doing here will get nerve-wracking. Like if you did a show and you made like 14 of these, at some point you're going to be like, I don't want to go through the bead again. And there it is. And that's reinforced twice. But I love that idea of maybe having that bead be an 8 and maybe even this top one. And it would give it a little bit of height, but that height would not affect our rows because our rows are only built on the side. We can probably make that work. So we should play with that for sure. Okay, so I'm back through the bottom of this bead. Now, one thing I wanted to share is in the handout, what you'll see is it shows me going through the hoop again and then coming back up through that size 10 an additional time. And that just might not be in the cards for you. If you've worked with this tons and you've got it so locked in, it's totally fine. Just turn and jump up through this one. So all I'm doing here is turning and going through the adjacent 10-0. So there's a little hack if you're getting worried about breaking that bead. And it doesn't show. I mean, if you really look, you might see the thread, but I can't see it. I think it looks okay. And we're right where we need to be now to move on with our stitch, which is also a bonus. So I'm going to go ahead and just string. So in the handout, what it shows is it shows coming out through that center bead again, and then going down through this bead, looping around the component, coming back up through it, and then starting. But we're already where we need to be, so we don't need to do that. We're on the bead that's just to the right of our center there. So moving on, go and put buddy. I missed a few things in the chat there. I have to go back and read because it looks like I missed some funnies. So I've got 2 size 10s. I've got the bicone again, and I'm going to just skip. Let's see how it looks if I do that. I skipped more than a couple there. Yeah, that looks better. And in this design, you get a little asymmetry, but because it's done at the top and the bottom, it becomes symmetrical in your eyes. Because you've got the 2 starting here, and then we don't end with 2, and the 2 starting here. And so you end up with this kind of like, and make sure I do this, which I thought was neat. If you're happy with it, keep going. If not, you can pull it out and see if the different thread bridge position looks better. Let's skip one. I like that. That one looks really good, actually. I said that, and then I'm going to mess with it for a while. Yeah, that's good. Two. Pull tight. Let's see, spacing. That's good. The spacing's all right. So yeah, this is just super easy design, just really fun. 3, 4, 5. Here's my, I'm already able to tell. I'm not sure about that. Let's go. 1, 2. Yeah, so it'll be okay. It seems just a little more space than my first side, but it's okay. And here's my 6th bead. All right, room for one more, 7. And for my 7th, I'm using the thread bridge that's right in front of my crystal. And I'm gonna pull tight on that. There it is. So you see how quick you can build these, and that's, you know, that's even me just kind of talking through stuff. So these aren't a long project. You can make them for shows, or they don't take a long time to make. I'm going to weave in these ends and then check in the chat a little bit with everyone, see if you guys want to try that idea with the size 8.0. I mean, I can see it in my head. I can see it working, but let's go ahead and weave these in really quick. So to weave in, all I've been doing from here, so you'll be exiting from the crystal that you just ended with. You can just go back through those 10.0 beads there. My tail out of the way. Go back down through your bicone. And I'm going to go under that thread bridge again. And up through it. Go through the next 2, down to this one. You can do this 2 or 3 times, and I would consider it locked in pretty good. So there's that side. That's woven in really nicely. You could go one more if you wanted. Just gonna push down and pull up the scissors there. So that one's good. I'll flatten my tail. Okay, so from here, I'm going to come up through the 2 beads, 2 size 10.0 beads there. This is working with my tail, which was left at the beginning, first row bead. Down through the crystal. And keeping in mind, this one has a knot somewhere back there along the way, so you could even just get away with trimming it after this step. So I just wove it in by going brick stitching underneath one of those crystals. It's here from that crystal. It's gonna trim it. If you have a burner, come along and just singe those down. There it is. So yeah, I mean, chatting and everything, it only took me an hour to make that. So not even an hour. All you would do to finish it, I'll finish it really quick, is you would get your tassel ready and get these ready. And then this comes with these cool little suns attached to it, but I didn't use them in this design. I saved them for something else. It'll inspire me. But I went ahead and remove that one. And then I need to open this one and remove this one. I'll need those jump rings back. I just wanted to see really, yeah, that's what I did. Okay. Looks like I used the jump ring top and bottom for some symmetrical look, but the tassels do have a jump ring on them that you could just direct. You could go direct for. So there's that. And this is double-sided. Doesn't even matter which side you use. So it can spin around while you're wearing it and it will look great. Just opening and closing a jump ring there. Get that on. And sorry, I went a little fast without explaining the jump rings. So the jump rings have those seams. And on an oval jump ring, the seam is going to be facing one of the long sides. You just laterally open it like that. And then get your tassel. If there's a side of your tassel you like more, you can make that the front. All right, and then all you have left to do is to get some chain, run it through the top here, and then put some findings on the ends of your chain. And it's a big jump ring, so even if you have one of those chains, it's already done. Like, for example, we used in one of our classes before, one of those ones that has the findings on it already. This side that does not have the lobster claw would have totally fit through here. So there you go, all done. All right, so I was going to just check in. Hey, Millie, how are you doing? How is everyone? I missed a little bit. I've been trying to follow, but I saw lots of funnies in the chat there.
Hi, I think
Hey.
everyone's following along. No
They're
problems.
good?
Just peanut gallery here.
Great. Awesome. Does everyone want a few minutes to go grab a water? And then I will maybe just check in, drop it in the chat actually during our break here and see if you want to see the 8-0 seed bead thing. We could just, we'll play, we'll see if it works. Yeah, okay, I see some thumbs up, so we'll definitely do that. So go ahead and take a little break, like 5 minutes or something, and then we'll get started again. Cheers. I have water here too. It was fun to see a lot of you guys on Tuesday. Thank you for being here for that. That was a really fun class. That was a treat for me to get to see. And I was really surprised with how she does her brick stitch, Naomi. If you missed that, it is on the YouTube channel already. You can catch it. It was a fanciful feather with Naomi. So anyone who wasn't there for that, it was a Tuesday special class that we had for Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm cleaning up some of my, I always make such a big mess for class. Like there's beads everywhere. There's that. I'm gonna switch up my colors. I'm boring up these colors. out. It was good. All right. Yeah, wait just another couple minutes, and unless everybody's back, let me do a quick gallery view. I see a couple questions here. I'm going to answer the first one. So for attaching the crystal at the top, that is, we can cover that again. That is going to be part of, we're going to just do the same steps again, but we're just going to put a size 10 seed bead in place of it. And sorry, a size 8 seed bead in place of a 10-0. So I'll show that again. But basically what it was is we just brick stitched the end. We went up through it, through a jump ring in the back of the crystal and back through those beads. So yeah, we'll definitely cover that. And then as for the necklace length, I think we're gonna have differences there. So what I did on mine, and I'm actually gonna measure it and see. So mine is like from the clasp to the bottom of the tassel is 18 inches in length. But it's easy to make it different because all you want to do is just cut your chain different. Like I wanted it to be kind of long. So let's see. I really like a long necklace. And so for me, it's like down to like, it's, you know, it's a statement piece. Like I would wear it just like this with a shirt, just like that. And it would be how I would go with it. But you can make it shorter. It's kind of a big pendant. And so when I make a big pendant, I'm a lot more like, actually, I'll just keep wearing it. There you go. I'm more likely to enjoy it more if it's not like really high, because it's going to just be all getting in the way of stuff. And when I'm trying to work, it'll be getting in the way. So I wear them long, usually, unless they have a very small like charm or something, then I might wear it short. And I'm only going to need 2 of these size 8 beads here. And I think everyone's back. So I'm going to just go ahead and just start jumping beads out. And then I switched my colors to yellow just for some fun. And oh, thanks, Felicia. Or Millie. I'm not sure who switched my camera, but thank you. Perfect timing. And I've got the 2/8. So those are, in this case, I just grabbed some of this really pretty purple chalk. And I grabbed those 2 there. And then I grabbed some size 10 in yellow, just for some variety. I'm going to keep these crystals going because this is a really cool color. It's easy to see and they're already here. So we'll just start from the top. I'm going to step-by-step go through it the way we have it in the handout, with the exception of I'm going to change up one little detail. I'm cutting 45 inches of this. And I am using, in case anyone missed the beginning, I'm using a size 12 beading needle. And that's was a lot more important with the size 10 bead all around things. So less so now that we're going to be using a bigger bead there. Okay, bring that down, fold it over, working on a single strand. Just going to poke that needle into my mat for a second. Bring it all the way down to my other end where my needle is not. And get the component here, tie a double knot on here. And about a 7-inch tail when you're tying that double knot. And just take a look at where your knot position is and adjust it. It moved around on me for the first few stitches, so I'm not stressing too much about where it is. I want to make sure it's locked in place before I keep going, right? But for now, I'm going to go ahead and keep starting with a 10 because our top and bottom bead will be an 8, but we're not going to add that to the last bead. And then we'll add this one at the bottom. So everyone can kind of see what we're doing. Same thing with the 10s. We're just going to have these the 8s here for ease of stitching. And here's that trick again, where if you want to optionally bring your tail up through your first bead when you're doing brick stitches, really nice because you can hide your knot. And so there's my hidden knot stuck there on the component. Got it tied on there. Good. Okay, and so I'm just going to really quickly just stitch around here. And I do some speed stitching. And I thought actually while I'm stitching this, I'll talk a little bit about I know a lot of folks when they first start doing this kind of stitch will work on the mat, and that's a really handy way to see what you're doing and also to keep your beads on the right side of the component. But in this advanced class, I didn't really cover that. So maybe I'll talk to it now, but as you're picking up your beads and going under, my shorthand version of that is I'm using my finger as a mat. And I'm just kind of holding the bead there, right? And when the needle goes away, I'm just holding the thread, holding that thread back up against the back of the component so that the bead does not have anywhere to go. Once it hits the component, it's stuck right where we want it and it stays put. But beginners will sometimes do the same activity on the mat. They'll bring the needle under, and then in that case, you just push the component down into your soft mat and it locks it. Same way, it's the same step and the same process, it's just a little faster holding it. So see, just my fingers the mat now. And it's just something that I figure came to me with just a couple of practice sessions, just stitching. You'll automatically find yourself doing that. You'll just pick it up. I'm going to have a lot of pendants after this. Oh, here's a funny story. Naomi had a lot of feathers at the end of her class on Tuesday. I don't know if anyone wants to take a guess how many feathers. She finished them all because, they're in various stages of completion. But I guess unfinished projects, she doesn't like leaving them unfinished. So she actually sent me a photo this morning of all of them are done. She finished every single one. And I'm in awe that she was able to do that since Tuesday. I mean, because those are that's a serious project. It's pretty epic. Okay, so I'm getting to the bottom here. All right, so I've got my first side. And again, this is one of those ones where I'm winging it right now because I'm not totally sure what's going to work. But let's get the size 8. Going through just the bottom hoop there, open hoop. This might actually be easier to do without that bottom hoop, but it forces you to choose a center, so it's good and bad at the same time. Yeah, I think it's going to work. There it is. It's really cool. Okay, so things I wish I thought of before. Add that to the list. Yeah, that looks really awesome. I did it in a different color on purpose, but if you did that in yellow or the same color as your beads, it would take somebody actually really staring at it to notice it was even a different size. But it'll be really noticeable when we're trying to stitch through it. And really nice. That could have been really bad. It's all good though. I'm sorry for going a little fast, but feel free to jump in if you guys have a question. I just want to get to the top and show making the connections now with that 8-0 bead in place of our 10-0. I think it's going to work magically. I think it's going to be just perfect. But I am still in the realm of theory here. Oh, red would be a cool color to bring on for this one, or pink. Almost there. And because the 8-0 is a little bigger, it might actually help me out because I always kind of feel like I have to have one too few or one too many to make that connection at the top work.
Okay, yeah, this Felicia, and to see you go full force in beading without talking is like, wow.
Thanks. I didn't realize I kind of stopped talking for a second there. I feel like I'm babbling sometimes in class. So yeah, oh, that's funny. I'm liking how this looks. I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like I'm thumbs it up for this one. Really cute. And here's our size 8-0 seed bead again. I'm gonna bring that down. And I'm gonna go through that open. That's that open hoop at the top there. Pull tight. And here's the part where we're gonna do the pendant nail again. You guys love the babbling. Thank you for liking the babbling and the giggling too. So here is, oh, it's almost ready. That's gonna be perfect. Look at that connection there. It's gonna work out really well. Yeah, I wasn't sure, so I'm getting excited about it. All right, we need another one of those crystals. There's that. Oh, and we need another jump ring. I put those away earlier. These are closed so nicely. I don't even need to adjust them. I adjusted the last one and I felt like it was better before I did. So I'm gonna just leave this one. So go through the crystal and then you want to go through your jump ring and bring that down. And from here, continue through the crystal again, but don't go through the jump ring. So you've got the jump ring kind of just hanging out up here, right?
Hi, Danielle. Just a quick question. Would you consider using a closed jump ring?
Perfect. If you have a closed one, that's great. I'm eagerly awaiting Michael's to get closed jump rings. I keep putting it in like, get closed jump rings because they're perfect. But an oval is a great alternative if you don't have those handy because they they have the seam on the side, so it makes it so it doesn't come loose as much. And this one's in the handout. You'll find this number here in the first page, like in our table of contents there. But yeah,
Great.
definitely closed is perfect too. And so I'm going to go through the jump ring, but not again. So I'm just leaving it hanging out there. And then, you know, just come down through your crystal and then through your seed bead. So through both of those, when you pull tight, the jump ring should just sit like that. Make a nice little veil. And so go through the loop at the top and then come back up through the seed bead and the crystal. We're going to reinforce that. And now that we're using the 8/0 seed bead, you could reinforce it a third time if you wanted. I still don't feel like it needs it, but you could. And now that you have that as an option, it opens up the door to use something heavier than what we've been using, the tassel and the light little charm. But if you wanted to use a gemstone now, you have that opportunity to add a third little connection there. It over, and I'm going to come up through the size 8 seed bead. And so what happens is you'll either get through it or you'll have to go through the crystal to make it, but I was able to get through just the size 8. If you end up going through the crystal, just come back out. That happened to us on the first round. And it just means your path of least resistance was that way. It's fine. All right, so now all we have to do is connect. So I want to connect that size 8/0 bead to my first 10/0 here. And remembering that we've got that. Jemmies, yeah. I have so many jemmies that I want to use up, and this would be a really nice project for those. And then I'll go ahead and pull down. And wow. So I kind of feel like the 8/0 solved the spacing issue that I was using adjustment for. So yeah, this is the 2.0 improved version. And I come around the back and then back up through that bead there. Here we go. Yeah, that's really neat. So what do you think? We've got lots of time. We can finish it. We can maybe try something different as we go along, make it more packed. Maybe we change up the edging a little bit. There was something crazy I felt like trying, and it might be great and it might be weird. I don't know. But I was thinking of solving that symmetry. We could go with 2 and then 1 and then 2. And then just seeing how that looked. The other thing was maybe making the seed beads dance around it. Well, this would be step 1 for that. And then you'd have to come back through and do like a, like that. I don't know. I'd have to play with it. Not sure I like it. Just made it look like a bottle. Oh yeah, no, it looks cute. And I'm just going to stick with the original there. Just go down. And I'll show connecting it more time. So that's probably something that it's good to see that more than once. And of course, there'll be a replay. So, anything that just, when you get going and you're starting to make the design, if you feel like, oh, I forgot that part, or there's definitely a replay and you get the email exclusive to you for the video. And if anyone doesn't get their link right away, it'll probably be like, Monday or Tuesday. But if it's, you're sitting on Wednesday and you haven't seen it, just go ahead and give me a message and I'll send you a link to it. If they send the link to me too. Sometimes it matters what email you use, and because it's got a link, it gets spam filtered out of people's boxes. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, I like the yellow. I'm really glad I went with that color. I'm trying something different. I'm making this one really close at the bottom. It's a little tighter. Let's see if it works. All right, there you go. Sorry, I had to free that one from the card. Oh yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna need to, I was just testing that out. So I went ahead and tightened that stitch down, but I didn't want to do that yet because I wanted to go through the bead instead of through the thread bridge. So I'm just coming back out. That was just a test to see if it would work. So now I want to go down through here. And let's go around. You could also from here, why not change it up a little bit? Of course, I've been going around the component and back up. You can do that and it works great. Or you could just come up through the 8-0. And that works too. Sometimes I feel like I can see that jump. But do I really? No, I don't think so. I think it looks fine. So there's another shortcut that you can take if you find that you like to make a lot of these and you feel like, oh, those are the steps that take so long where you have to keep going back through the beads. And so there's that. What through this one here came up through the size 8, and I'm going to reinforce this. I'm working in the bottom open hole there. This part right here, sorry. This part right here. Slide my mat over because all my markers on my mat are not in the right spot. So back through the bead. The component. And then back up through the bead. Yeah, the 8 is a lot easier. Still need the pliers, but wow, way cooler. Okay, there it is. It locks in really nicely. And then to get where I need to be next, I'm just going to come up through the next 10-0. You could whip around again if you wanted to, but I feel like this is fine. And it makes it really tight too. See, it kind of holds its own shape there. Like, all right. So I'll just keep finishing it. Let's finish it and so we can see it done. And skip 2 here. Double check I like the look. And that's cute. Another siding that would look good on this is one that we did in, what class was that? We just did one where we, oh, it was the ruffle pendant class. It was earlier this year. I feel like it might have even been one of our first classes of 2022. And in that one we had, I think we were just using some 6-0, and we were using crystals. We might have been using some rondelles or something. But that stitch, look where we did seed bead and then larger bead and then seed bead and then went along like that, made them sit sideways. Try that with this too. If you get bored of this stitching edging, because that looked really cool on that one. It might look great on this one too. And so if you like this spacing, I am skipping a thread bridge and going through the next one. And that's working 100% of the time, actually, for the whole way around, skipping the first thread bridge and going through the next one. And here's through the last thread bridge. Yes. Yay, that's neat. I like that 8-0 look. Cool. So yeah, I hope that actually helped a lot because I was feeling worried about breaking a bead as I was working. And so I know you guys might be feeling the same thing. Breaking a bead is just heartbreaking. It's back to square one and we've all been there. So this makes sure that doesn't happen. And it looks cool. And if you make it the same color, I really truly feel like you wouldn't notice the size difference. It just doesn't stand out to me that much. Well, it's a little taller, but not too much. Yeah, so we have tons of time. Feel free to drop some ideas in the chat. I can just deep dive into like showing you all the stuff we've got coming up. Or just answer a bunch of questions about this project or other projects we've had. Sky's the limit. You got a little extra time and give you guys a little more of your afternoons. This is one where I thought it's either going to be done really early or it's going to take the whole 2 hours because I break a bead or something. I wasn't sure. So. What's next? Okay, thanks, Sharon. Okay, so what's coming up? We have next week. So of course there's the holiday next week, right? So this is the one that's not next Friday, but the Friday after that. And I'll look at those dates for you guys. But how cute are these little bees? I like this one. This one got me really into brick stitch again. I started making a bunch of patterns for, like I made cartoon characters for my kiddo from his video games. But it's just a really easy brick stitch design, and it is an opportunity to introduce increase and decrease. And oh, that's a great idea, Cindy. That's cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. And so let's see, I was going to share with you guys a little of the secret sauce for coming up with these patterns. If you don't already know about, there's a program called Bead Tool 4. I use that to make these patterns. And I used to do them manually with some printed out brick stitch paper. Those are available lots of places. If you just go on like Google and you type in brick stitch craft paper, tons of companies make them. Like, and there's also, you know, like just downloadables and stuff. Patterns on Etsy, of course, and craft paper on Etsy. But I use that software, and the reason I do that is because it can give me the opportunity to fix and correct errors, and I'm not having to stitch it the whole time. And then I can easily highlight and identify my largest rows and where to start. Saves me a little bit of time. And so that one is just a really cool bee, and it's super easy to do. If you look real close, you notice that I had a 2.0 moment there with the in between the antennae. I liked it a lot better. This was the second one I made, and the first one I was like, Again, nobody's going to notice that until they really look, but if you wanted to, I'll explain during class. Like you could just, it makes it faster to just do it like that. This is an extra step, but it's cute. And it doesn't take long. So anyway, that's the next class we have coming up. And then after that, we have a ring. And this one was a really fun design. And it has another opportunity to show something cool, which is how to do odd count peyote in just a single column. And I know that sounds kind of like, well, some of you have already done it, I'm sure, but there's, you know, a lot of beginners out there that might find that technique neat to see for the first time. So I thought this is a cool way to show it. And then the easy part is just adding a little brick stitch layer. That's how the top and the bottom is done. I just came along and brick stitched those. And in the pattern, when you build the peyote part, this is your guide because the colors start changing. So you know right where to put every bead for brick stitch. So it kind of patterns itself, it guides itself. There's that one. And this is the next premium class, the next workshop. And so it's kind of 3 different ways you can make this one. Let me bring up the handout for that. Let's see, that's the ring. Here we go. Okay. So this one is cool. It's a stream of consciousness in originally, but all it does is it has a flower start, and then you have this option of going crazy and embellishing it. And I did pictures because anytime we go 3D, it's hard to illustrate, so you can see like side views and stuff. But it's you have the option of not doing like that top part. And if you don't do the top part, it really looks like one of those flowers that everyone's making, but with super dough. And it works up really quick. And then if you put the little embellishment on it, it makes it look more like a chrysanthemum. And then you can also change the counts of the side beads and make it dome. This is actually the reverse side of that design. There's the top. It has the embellishment, but the embellishment gets buried because it becomes like this little dome bowl shape. And so this is going to be really fun. We'll definitely have the full 2 hours going over this one, but because there's just so many places you can take it, you can have edging versus no edging on your band. And so this one is the next workshop, and that's the one coming up July. It's like I believe it's the last weekend in July, the last Friday, but I'll double check that. I know a lot of you guys already signed up, so July 29th. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Yay. That's awesome. Yeah, so that one is, I'm excited for this one. So we'll be together again, our group here for that. And what else? We have the jewelry day of making. Oh, thanks, Pat. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to turn on my gallery really quick so I can see you guys. And yeah, so, Cynthia's registered. That's good news. Yeah, that'll be a really fun one. And I'm working on the next classes right now. I got a week behind, but I'm getting them done, and they're going to be cute. I have one I just finished that's I saw an inspiration for it, and so some of the Czech designers are in Preciosa have making these like ball designs, and I made a ball, and it's cute. And I thought about turning it either into an apple or an earring. I don't know yet. We're gonna see where it goes. It could be cool. Yeah, and then after that, how do you feel about peyote with a twist for a workshop? Scary or okay? Thumbs up. I should be scared, but I'm not scared because it's you guys. So I just taught myself how to do it. I can't believe I never tried it. So I'm like, I tried it and I'm like, whoa, this is cool. And that's all I want to do now. So I figure maybe you'll feel the same way. So I'll try to make it unique with a little pattern or something that's not, not going to take away from learning it, but can still give it some interest or some fun. So, all right. I got a yes from Cindy. All right. Well, cool. You guys have any stuff to hold up or anything? I know Pat does. I know this is a hard one, so you might not have it ready. So no worries if you don't, but feel free to tag us if you post on socials and stuff. It's really cool to see your work. Oh my gosh, Pat has it done. Yay. That's cool. Oh, I love that. That's really gorgeous. Oh, hey, Tracy has hers done. Oh, that's beautiful, Tracy. Oh, yay, Valerie. Oh, hey, you're doing a teardrop shape. That's going to be neat. Oh, cool. Oh, you guys got it. You're so ahead. Oh, thanks, Valerie. Oh, awesome. Well, hey, I want to wish you guys a really great weekend. And of course, anytime you need something, you can find me on the Instagrams. You can email me anything you need, and I will make sure you guys get the video. And if you want to share your work, of course, I'll be excited to see that too. All right. Well, hey, have a great weekend and happy beading.